There comes a season when the noise around you becomes too loud for clarity and the presence of others begins to interfere with purpose. In those moments, isolation can feel like rejection, abandonment, or even punishment. But isolation is often alignment in disguise. It is not about being pushed away. It is about being pulled into position. When God prepares someone for greater responsibility, he often reduces the number of voices they can hear so that his voice becomes unmistakable. Separation is uncomfortable because humans are wired for connection. We find security in familiarity and validation in community. So when relationships shift, conversations fade, and invitations stop coming, the pain can feel personal. But not everyone who walked with you is meant to walk where you are going. Some people are assigned to a season, not a destiny. Their role was to support who you were, not who you are becoming. Holding on to them would slow the transformation required for the next level. Isolation creates space for honesty. When the crowd disappears, there is no one left to perform for impress or please. You are forced to confront yourself without filters. This is where growth accelerates. In quiet moments, weaknesses surface, motives are examined, and character is refined. Without distraction, you begin to hear what was always being drowned out. Direction becomes clearer because the interference is gone. Alignment also requires detox. Certain environments reinforce patterns that are incompatible with your calling. Familiar voices can unintentionally pull you back into old thinking, old habits, and old limits. Distance breaks those cycles. It gives you room to unlearn what no longer fits and to develop discernment about what deserves access to your life. What feels like loneliness is often protection from influence that would dilute your purpose. Many struggle in isolation because they interpret it as evidence that something is wrong. But the opposite is often true. Isolation usually comes before elevation. Before major assignments, leaders are shaped in private. Confidence is built without applause. Faith is tested without witnesses. Strength is developed where no one can interfere. If everyone could access you, everyone could distract you. In isolation, dependence shifts. You stop leaning on people for reassurance and start leaning on God for direction. Prayer becomes more honest because there is no audience. Decisions become clearer because they are no longer filtered through others' expectations. You begin to trust your discernment instead of constantly seeking approval. This independence is not arrogance, it is maturity. Isolation also reveals who truly belongs in your future. When you emerge from this season, you will recognize relationships that are rooted in purpose rather than convenience. You will value depth over quantity and alignment over familiarity. The loneliness you felt will make you more intentional, not more distant. So if your circle has grown smaller, do not panic. If silence has replaced constant conversation, do not assume abandonment. This season is not meant to break you. It is meant to position you. Alignment always requires separation, and separation always feels lonely before it feels powerful. Trusting God when circumstances contradict His promises is one of the hardest disciplines of faith. It is easy to believe when things are improving, doors are opening, and prayers are being answered quickly. But faith is truly tested when what you see does not match what you were told. Walking by faith means choosing to rely on what God has spoken rather than what is visible, measurable, or immediately understandable. This kind of trust requires surrendering the need for proof. Human nature wants evidence before commitment. We want signs, confirmations, and guarantees before we move forward. But faith operates in the opposite direction. It requires movement before manifestation, obedience before understanding, and belief before results. When logic fails and circumstances remain unchanged, faith becomes a decision rather than a feeling. You choose to trust even when your emotions resist and your mind demands answers. Visible reality can be deceptive. What you see is often incomplete, temporary, or still in process. Many breakthroughs begin invisibly, taking shape beneath the surface long before they appear outwardly. Just because nothing looks different does not mean nothing is happening. Faith allows you to remain steady during these hidden stages, trusting that progress is occurring even when you cannot trace it. There are moments when trusting God means standing alone in conviction. Others may question your confidence, suggest safer alternatives, or advise you to be more realistic. Their concern may be genuine, but their perspective is limited to what they can observe. Faith sometimes requires you to appear foolish by worldly standards. It asks you to keep building when others see no reason, to keep believing when others have moved on. Walking by faith also demands patience. Impatience pushes you to force outcomes, compromise values, or settle for less than what was promised. Faith teaches you to wait without becoming passive. It allows you to remain expectant without becoming anxious. Waiting does not mean doing nothing. It means continuing in obedience while trusting timing you cannot control. Trust deepens when you learn to release control. Many struggle not because they lack belief, but because they insist on managing the outcome. Faith grows when you acknowledge that your understanding is limited and that God's perspective is greater. Letting go of control is not weakness, it is humility. It is recognizing that your vision cannot compete with divine insight. Choosing faith over sight reshapes how you interpret challenges. Obstacles become opportunities to trust. Delays become invitations to deepen dependence. Uncertainty becomes a space where faith matures. Over time, trust becomes less about getting what you want and more about believing that whatever unfolds will align with purpose. When you trust God beyond what you can see, peace replaces panic. You stop reacting to every change in circumstance and start resting in confidence. Faith anchors you not because life becomes predictable, but because your trust becomes unshakable. There are moments when loss feels sudden and unfair, when things you valued are removed without warning or explanation. Relationships end, doors close, plans collapse, and you are left wondering what you did wrong. But not everything that leaves your life is taken from you. Some things are released because they were never meant to stay. What feels like subtraction is often protection, and what looks like loss is sometimes deliverance. It is difficult to accept removal. When you were emotionally invested, you prayed over certain connections. You worked hard on certain plans. You imagined futures that included people and opportunities that are now gone. The pain comes from assuming that longevity equals alignment. But duration does not determine purpose. Some things are allowed to exist only long enough to teach you, shape you, or reveal something you could not see before. When their assignment is complete, they must go. Closed doors often carry hidden mercy. Had some opportunities remained open, they would have drained you, distracted you, or delayed you. Had certain relationships continued, they might have limited your growth or compromised your discernment. Removal is not always a response to failure. Sometimes it is a response to advancement. What worked in one season can become an obstacle in the next. Many people struggle because they keep trying to resurrect what God intentionally removed. They revisit conversations, replay memories, and reopen doors that were shut for their protection. But clarity comes when you stop chasing what has already exited. Peace arrives when you accept that not everything lost was meant to be recovered. Some endings are not wounds, they are boundaries. Release is painful because it requires trust. You are asked to let go without fully understanding why. You are required to move forward without closure. But faith grows when you trust that what was removed would have interfered with what is coming. God does not take away without intention. He removes what would limit you, distract you, or harm you in the future, even when you cannot yet see it. There are also moments when removal exposes attachment. You discover how much identity you placed in people, positions, or plans rather than in purpose. Losing them feels like losing yourself, but that exposure is healing. It redirects your foundation away from temporary things and back to what is unshakable. What you lost did not define you. It only supported a version of you that has now expired. As painful as it feels, release creates space. Empty hands can receive what full hands cannot. New doors require closed ones. Greater alignment requires fewer attachments. What was removed made room for clarity, peace, and direction. Even if the removal felt harsh, it was precise. So when something exits your life unexpectedly, resist the urge to see it as punishment. Ask instead what it was protecting you from. What left was not stolen from you. It was cleared away for something better, aligned with who you are becoming. Breakthrough rarely arrives quietly or comfortably. It is usually preceded by pressure, resistance, and moments where quitting feels justified. Many assume that if they are doing the right thing, the path should feel smoother. But obedience often attracts opposition, not because you are wrong, but because you are moving in the right direction. Pressure is not a signal to stop. It is often confirmation that something significant is close. Obedience is costly because it demands consistency without applause. You keep showing up when no one is watching, keep believing when nothing changes, and keep doing what is right even when it feels unrewarded. This kind of faithfulness is not glamorous, but it is powerful. Heaven responds to obedience with outcome, not explanation. While others are waiting for clarity, the obedient are being positioned for results. Pressure exposes priorities. When life becomes heavy, what truly matters rises to the surface. You learn what you can live without and what you cannot compromise. Resistance forces you to refine focus. Distractions fall away because survival requires alignment. This narrowing of attention strengthens purpose and sharpens discernment. What once divided your energy now receives clarity. Breakthrough often follows moments when you feel least qualified, most exhausted, or deeply unsure. That is because strength is being drawn from trust rather than confidence. You are learning to rely on God's power instead of your own. When self-sufficiency fades, surrender deepens. And surrender is where transformation accelerates. Obedience also develops endurance. Endurance is the ability to remain steady under prolonged pressure without losing integrity. It is built through repeated decisions to stay faithful even when outcomes are delayed. This endurance is necessary because breakthrough brings its own weight. What you prayed for will require maturity to sustain. If fulfillment arrived too early, it would collapse under responsibility. Many give up just before results appear because pressure convinces them that nothing is working, but resistance often intensifies before release. The final stretch test resolve. It challenges you to trust without reassurance. Those who remain obedient during this stage position themselves to witness the shift. The breakthrough does not always arrive the way you expect, but it arrives right on time. Results speak louder than arguments. When obedience is sustained, change becomes visible, doubt loses its voice, and opposition fades. What once required explanation now stands as evidence. The transformation is undeniable because it is rooted in consistency, not impulse. Breakthrough is not a reward for perfection. It is a response to persistence. It comes to those who stayed faithful when it was hard, remained grounded when it was uncomfortable, and trusted when it was unclear. Pressure may have shaped the journey, but obedience unlocked the outcome. Pain and delay have a way of making you question everything you once believed. When answers don't come quickly and relief seems postponed, doubt starts whispering that perhaps the promise was never real. But pain does not erase what was spoken. It reveals what must be refined. Delay does not mean abandonment. It means timing is being protected. What feels like a setback is often a setup, shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of fulfillment without being destroyed by it. Refinement is rarely gentle. It strips away illusions, attachments, and expectations that would later interfere with purpose. When things you prayed for begin to fall apart, it can feel like loss, but often it is exposure. God reveals what cannot go with you into the next season. Some habits, relationships, and mindsets are not removed because they are evil, but because they are insufficient. The process is uncomfortable because letting go always is, especially when you don't yet see what is coming to replace what was lost. Delay is one of the hardest tools to accept because it forces trust without evidence. You are asked to keep believing while circumstances remain unchanged. This waiting stretches your faith beyond emotion and into conviction. It teaches you how to stand on truth even when nothing around you supports it. If everything happened instantly, faith would be unnecessary. Delay trains you to rely on God's word rather than on visible results. Pain also confronts the false belief that being faithful guarantees immunity from hardship. It doesn't. Faithfulness guarantees presence, not exemption. You are not spared from the fire, you are sustained in it. And that sustaining power is what transforms you. Pain exposes areas where you relied on comfort, control, or certainty more than trust. Through it, dependence shifts from self to God. Many people confuse silence with absence. When prayers are met with quiet, it feels as though nothing is happening, but silence is often a sign of deep work taking place beneath the surface. Seeds grow in darkness before they break through the soil. Roots deepen before branches rise. Delay allows foundations to be established so that what grows later can stand when storms come. Refinement also clarifies motivation. When progress slows and recognition disappears, you are forced to ask why you continue. Is it for applause or is it for obedience? Pain purifies intention. It removes the need to be seen and replaces it with the desire to be aligned. This is why some blessings take longer than expected, because the heart must be ready before the hands receive. What you are enduring is not designed to destroy you, but to prepare you. The fire is not meant to consume, it is meant to cleanse. Every tear, every unanswered prayer, every delayed breakthrough is shaping discernment, resilience, and wisdom. When the promise finally manifests, it will not collapse under pressure because you were refined before it arrived. If the journey feels harder than you imagined, it does not mean the promise failed. It means the process is working. Being chosen does not mean the journey will be easy, comfortable, or free from pain. Many people assume that once God selects someone, life should immediately become smoother, lighter, and more rewarding. But the truth is often the opposite. The calling comes with weight. The assignment comes with pressure. The responsibility comes with seasons that test every part of your faith. What you are carrying right now is not a sign that something is wrong with you. It is a sign that something valuable has been entrusted to you. Ordinary lives are not given extraordinary burdens, but chosen lives are trained through resistance. You expected doors to open quickly, yet you encountered delays. You thought obedience would bring instant peace, yet you faced inner conflict. You believed faithfulness would protect you from pain, yet you experienced loss. This confusion happens when expectations are shaped by comfort instead of calling. Being chosen does not remove struggle, it redefines it. The battles you face are not meant to crush you, but to reveal what is inside you. Pressure exposes strength that comfort never could. There are levels of preparation that only difficulty can produce. Patience is not learned in abundance, it is learned in waiting. Humility is not formed in applause, it is formed in obscurity. Endurance is not developed in ease, it is forged in resistance. That is why the path feels heavy. You are being trained for something that requires stability, discipline, and spiritual maturity. If the journey were easy, you would arrive unprepared for the responsibility waiting on the other side. Many have walked away from their calling because they mistook difficulty for disqualification. They assumed that if it were truly meant for them, it wouldn't hurt this much. But pain is not proof of failure. It is often proof of growth. Muscles only strengthen when resistance is applied. Faith works the same way. Every challenge you overcome stretches your capacity to handle what is coming next. Being chosen also means being misunderstood. Others may look at your struggles and assume you made wrong choices. They may question your decisions, your faith, or your direction, but they do not see the full picture. They are not aware of the weight you carry or the future you are being prepared for. Approval is not required when purpose is involved. Validation will come later, but preparation must come first. The journey feels hard because it is shaping you into someone who can withstand pressure without breaking, success without pride, and authority without losing humility. You are learning how to stand when things are uncertain, how to trust when answers are delayed, and how to keep moving when the path is unclear. These lessons cannot be rushed, skipped, or replaced. So if life feels heavier since you stepped into obedience, do not retreat. If the road feels narrower, do not turn back. Difficulty is not a warning sign. It is often a confirmation. You were trusted with this path because you are capable of walking it, even when it feels overwhelming.